All right, welcome into episode 6 of the Tipsy Tailgate. I'm your host, Aiden L. Grobley.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Jake.
And we're excited to bring this one to you. We got a packed setup here. We're going to go over Dak Prescott's new contract, staying in Dallas, UFC 259 reaction, NBA AllStar Week, the Nets getting Blake Griffin, a little segment at the end that we're excited to bring you, and a couple NBA topics too. So let's get into Dak Prescott. He stays with the Dallas Cowboys, 4-year deal, $160 million, $126 million guaranteed. This contract's actually crazy because he's gonna make $75 million in 1 year.
Yeah.
In the first year of the contract, actually, which is just absurd. Do we like it? I think personally, I think that this contract is even better than Mahomes, just because he's gonna make so much money up front, and it's only 4 years. By the time the 4 years is over, he's still in his prime. He might even hit his peak in 4 years.
Yep.
And so he's just going to get another contract, probably double the money. And at that point, it's probably going to be contract up to $700 million, whoever knows where the cap hits. They just extended the cap in the NFL recently, past couple of days. So I think it's a great signing for him.
So yeah, I also saw by 2025, the salary cap, where it's at right now, I think it's at $182 million right now.
Mm-hmm.
By 2025, it's supposed to be at $250 million, which is right when Dak's up for a new contract anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Which means he could really be a subpar, or not a subpar, but not as good as a quarterback as he is right now, and get the same amount of money in his next contract as well.
Well, I'm a huge fan of this signing. I'm a huge fan of Dak. I think Dak's a very, very, very good quarterback. A quarterback who is good enough to win a Super Bowl. The Cowboys had to get this done. They had to lock him up. Another thing that this signing makes me think is I think Zeke is on his way out in Dallas.
Yeah.
I don't think that contract is sustainable anymore. I don't think it was in the first place. But, yeah, I think Zeke will be on his way out.
Yeah, we touched on this, I think, last podcast or maybe 2 podcasts ago, but we kind of think that Tony Pollard would do just fine.
Yeah, do just
in
fine.
that position.
Just fine.
And he stepped in.
He did. He played good.
Yeah, he played well. He broke off for a few nice runs, and he can get the job done, especially if Dak's playing at the high level that he was.
Take into account the skill position players that they already have in place as well.
Right, yeah.
I think Tony Pollard
they're
do
loaded.
fine, especially given the fact that you have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott,
and
obviously.
nobody really mentions him either, but Blake Jarwin, I mean, he's a guy that...
He's a solid
hurt.
tight end.
Yeah.
And no, but he was hurt. He got hurt, right? He tore his ACL this year, and the next guy up stepped in.
I know. Yeah. I know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But Blake Jarwin was projected to be a top 10 tight end, sort of, as like a sneaky guy late in like fantasy drafts, and he'll be back. They're going to be a good team. I think Zeke is kind of an extra piece that they don't really need considering the cap hit. But yeah, so let's get into UFC 259 reaction. So first off, I'm going to say Amanda Nunes,
Unbelievable.
The greatest woman athlete in UFC history, without a doubt.
For sure, without a doubt.
She's just dominant.
She's a top 5 fighter, regardless of gender in the UFC's history.
I can't see her losing anytime soon. Like, really, like...
No, she's unbelievable.
You say that with, like, Ronda Rousey and, like, Holly Holm, but, like...
They've all lost.
Yeah, Amanda Nunes, like, I actually can't see losing, like, anytime soon. So, she's definitely, like, one of the greatest to ever do it from her position. And so, Israel Adesanya gets the loss. Kind of a fight that was expected, but in the same token, it wasn't really expected, the outcome, just because Jan is a huge guy, and this is Adesanya. He had the lightweight belt,
and he moved up
and the middleweight, and then he moved up, and this was the heavyweight, and to
light
go
heavyweight.
Up, light heavyweight, exactly, light heavyweight. To go up to that third category and go for that third, I
think it was just too much, and that's why, in my opinion,
was too powerful.
this doesn't really affect his legacy very much.
I don't think so either.
I think he was just out of his element a little bit. He was just a much bigger man, and I thought John Jones was an unrealistic fight before this, but now that's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it goes into Jan is he's a very, very good fighter, and he kind of outmatched Israel just because his power was too much Yeah, he did. He had the nice, like, even Adesanya said, he had good guard, really finished his punches a lot and connected a lot. And Adesanya, his best part of his game is his precision striking. And he would strike and he'd be precise as he always is, but
just didn't affect Jan like it usually does other fighters.
Usually being that precise, you land a hit, it'll shake up the opponent. Jan just ate those hits, and it's because he's just too big of a body.
Do you think we're ever going to see a John Jones-Izzy fight, though?
No, absolutely not.
I don't know.
I really don't.
I think it's still potentially could happen.
I don't
think anytime soon.
I don't want to see it happen, and I don't think it will happen.
Why don't you want to see it happen?
I think John Jones would knock him out in a minute.
You wouldn't want to see that?
No, I would.
I'd like to see that. I don't know about you, but I mean, I think John Jones would get
he would destroy him,
but. You know, who knows? Adesanya's one of the guys that you never know. He really showed that he could play. Not only he wasn't outmatched. Like, that's the thing. He lost, but he wasn't outmatched. He just didn't do enough. And I don't think he would have done enough if he was I don't know, if he had a second shot at it. I don't think he would do it enough just because he isn't physically there. But I think he wasn't outmatched. I think he going up to third class and still being able to show that he was, he brought, like, the pop, he brought his game. I think that showed a lot about Adesanya, and he might not be able to go up to that third class, but he could definitely kill guys in
I'll give
both classes.
Adesanya credit for going the distance. A lot of credit for going the distance, but with that being said, I never really felt like there was any threat for him to win the fight. I never felt that was a possibility.
I agree. That definitely, I agree with that. Definitely not any point at that fight was there like, oh, he's gonna win. Definitely, certainly not. Oh, he's gonna knock him out.
Even in the Conor Poirier fight, there was a little flurry of punches where like, oh, Conor might have him here. You never saw that in this fight.
I agree with that. So let's get into NBA AllStar Weekend. So we get the skills challenge, we get a 3-point contest. And then we get the game, and then at halftime of the game, we get the dunk contest. My opinions, worst dunk contest ever. I think that's just collective.
Absolutely.
Everyone kind of realized that. Everyone knows that. Definitely not an entertaining dunk contest. I mean, most of those guys, they'd finish their dunk and just have a straight face. It didn't even look like they wanted to be there.
And I don't think they even picked the right guy to win the contest.
Yeah,
and also with the dunk contest too, the dunk contest is just getting so repetitive every single year.
It really is.
But it's not their guys' fault, you know. How much can you really?
Yeah, how much can you really do in a dunk contest? I feel like all the best moves have already been thought of. I mean, obviously, new ones can come along, but I think we've basically seen it all. I wouldn't mind the dunk contest coming to an end, to be honest with you.
It's same here. I mean, you know, the 3-point contest became the highlight of AllStar Weekend, or that skills night, the Saturday night on AllStar Weekend, you could say. What would you replace the dunk contest with?
That's a very good question.
You have to replace it with something. You can't just remove it, but...
Maybe a bigger 3-point contest? More guys in the 3-point?
A deeper half-court contest?
Maybe.
I mean, nowadays everyone hits half-quarters like it's nothing, so that's possible.
One thing about All-Star Weekend I will say is I had a little bit of a problem with the skills competition, and in particular... Luka Doncic really disappointed me. He didn't look like he cared. I don't blame him for not really caring. It's the All-Star game, but at least put on a little bit of a show. He didn't even take off his warm-up clothes. He wasn't even in his jersey. It was just, honestly, I thought it was a bad look for Luka.
And he said before he came out, because there were people criticizing him, he came out and said, like, I didn't practice for this.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't my thing. Like, whatever.
Yeah, and I think also it was reflected in the All-Star game because first quarter was the sloppiest basketball I've ever seen. It was terrible. We actually considered turning it off for a little bit. It was not good. And then second, third, fourth, it got a little bit more up pace. You know, of course, once it starts getting into the higher and they start passing down the court, alley-oop, then down the court, half-court shot. That's when it gets entertaining, at least for All-Star games recently. So that wasn't. I enjoyed that, the ending part of the All-Star game for sure.
The All-Star game had its moments, but
definitely had its moments.
Overall, I thought it fell a little bit flat.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Nets acquire Blake Griffin. So this was a signing that I think a lot of people are either overreacting to, or some people I think could be underreacting. Honestly, it was kind of either way. some people think, oh, Blake Griffin, they're gonna win the championship. I don't think it's one of those situations.
Absolutely
And then some people
not.
are saying, oh, Blake Griffin adds nothing to the team. Like, that was just a pointless signing. So where do you stand on that?
Well, I don't feel at all that this puts the Nets over the Lakers. I think the Lakers are still a deeper, better team. I think that they would have the best player in that series. I think if the Nets went out and acquired a guy like DeAndre Jordan, which I think the Lakers will do, I think that would be the deciding factor in that series.
Yeah, okay. I agree.
You know, I'm on the boat where I do think the Lakers are still the front runners to win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
But with this signing for the Nets, it adds something that they really needed in their bench unit. Sort of a face where, let's say, every single starter on your team, which won't happen because you have, James Harden, Kyrie, and KD.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say they're all out, and they all need like a breather for 5 minutes just to get them right back into it. Having a guy like Blake Griffin on that second unit to take control, I mean, yeah, he's only averaging 13 a game this year, but 2 years ago he was averaging 23 a game. So it's not like this guy can't go out and score. He he didn't just lose everything overnight. He's still Blake Griffin.
I don't know if he's still Blake Griffin.
But he's still an above average.
He's still an above average player in the NBA.
Yeah, and I also think it helps that he's now on a team that has kind of something to look forward to. I mean, him on the Pistons was just, what are you playing for?
Yeah.
Just the money and the fans, honestly. So you go to now you're in Brooklyn. You got something to go for. You got a chip to look forward to. I think that's a signing that isn't really putting them over the top, like you said, but definitely isn't nothing. But I agree with what you said. Andre Drummond, if he is signed by either the Nets or the Lakers, they have my
whichever team he goes to, I am picking that team. Obviously, between the Lakers and Nets, between those two, that's the team I would pick to win the championship.
Now, what would you say if Lakers got Drummond, but the Nets got Boogie Cousins? Because there are rumors that the Nets are either trying to get Boogie Cousins or Drummond. So
I would still take the Lakers.
Oh, yeah.
I think at that point, if you get Boogie and you get Blake Griffin, I think it's just too much. I think it's one of those things where you're trying to make too many people work chemistry wise. Boogie's kind of a hothead. Mm-hmm. I don't think that would work. I think
he's an unproductive hothead.
Yeah. The thing about Andre Drummond to me is he's exactly what the Brooklyn Nets need. Yep. They need another big man, and they need defense, and they need rebounding badly, and that's exactly what Andre Drummond, would provide for the Nets.
So what about, because I know you two are like Boston fans, what about Andre Drummond at the Celtics?
I think that would be a perfect fit.
I think that puts them in title contention too.
I don't know about title contention, but I think they could crack the East Final again.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the Nets with Andre Drummond, hot take, and I mean the Celtics with Andre Drummond, and I'm not a Celtics fan, but I think you got two All-Stars on that team and Kemba, who before the All-Star break, 3 games prior, was playing very well.
Mm-hmm. Very inconsistent this year. Very.
Yes, but he was getting. It looked like he was getting into his groove towards the end.
Yeah.
If he can get into his groove, and then you could sign somebody that's going to grab 14 rebounds a game and get it back to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I think that would make the Celtics a much, much better team than they are right now.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, they kind of have been a mess. We've kind of went into an ongoing joke that they haven't been
not really
as good
reaching their
as
potential at all.
Yeah, and obviously with Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens and them, it's kind of one of those things where they were so hyped up. Like, look at what they put together, and then now you're like, oh wait, what happened to it all?
If it doesn't mean anything if you compile a bunch of assets and don't do anything with them. And hopefully Danny learned his lesson because, dear Lord, that was bad.
Yeah, I mean, they had everything going for them, and then to kind of flounder out and end with... I mean, it's not over, it's not ended, it's pretty much just begun, but
to be honest, as a Celtics fan, it really feels like there was a wasted opportunity here.
Definitely a
with all those assets, all that young talent.
But look, I mean, you still have Jaylen Brown, you still have Jason Tatum Young, you still have Kemba.
Still able to recover, but bit of a setback.
You could still recover, but I think if they make something out of it within the next 2-3 years,
they still have the two most important pieces that they had. So that's the important thing.
And have those two pieces locked up for 4 years.
Yep.
So here's another question. Would you rather have starting your team today? I don't know about the rest of the players, but would you rather have LeBron and AD, or KD, Kyrie, and James Harden? What do you take? You start a team, you either get those two or these three.
For this season or for the next few years?
let's do this season.
I would take LeBron and AD in a heartbeat. I would take LeBron and AD.
Do they have the same supporting cast?
There's not even a supporting cast in picture. It's just actually, you know what? Same supporting cast. We'll go with that. Yeah.
With the same supporting cast, I would still take LeBron and AD because I think that's just the most unstoppable duo that the NBA's seen in a while.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to take this KD, Kyrie, and Harden because you got KD, who in my opinion, a little bit of a hot take here. I think by the time, as long as he stays healthy, of course, I think by the time he retires, he will be the greatest scorer in NBA history, and I think that's what he will go down as. In terms of Kyrie, he's the greatest ball handler in the game of basketball, I think, history. Obviously, Curry's got great handles, but Kyrie's head and shoulders, I think, above.
Best handle of all time, easily.
Kyrie, I would definitely give him that.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden, on the other hand, phenomenal shooter. Obviously, he's got a little bit more to his game that isn't really as helpful. The defensive liability.
Playing better defense this year. I'll give him credit.
Defense this year, yeah. And I think part of it has to do with he knows that it's all right in front of him.
I think he's got a little bit of a fire under his ass, and he's ready to get going.
He sees it's all in front of him, and he doesn't have to worry about Russell Westbrook anymore. And he kind of has to take a step back and be like, all right, I'm with two other All-Stars. I'm with a team that's.
If James Harden can't get a championship here, he's just.
Yeah, he might have.
He's not going to get one.
The Westbrook Curse, which the Westbrook Curse, in my opinion, is I'm not a big Westbrook guy. I think, and I've been saying it. I'm actually on my Twitter page. I've been saying it for maybe 3-4 years now. I think Russell Westbrook is one of the worst, or not worst. One of the one of the players in NBA history that I think no matter where he went or goes, he's not gonna win a ring.
Yeah, I don't
because he makes his teammates. He doesn't make them worse, but
he doesn't make them better.
He doesn't make them better, and the team always, in my opinion, just the value of the team goes right down.
I think you can make an argument that Russell Westbrook does in fact make his teammates worse. I think he constantly puts them in bad positions. Leaves his defender to go steal a rebound.
I've been saying it was always the high school lunchroom discussions, the debates in high school, where you sit down at the lunch table and you all start talking. That was, of course, a lot of people probably have had that experience. That was one of those things that I was very firm in. Russell Westbrook is not a guy that you want on your team. I don't care if you got him for free. I would take a guy just a guy you could dish at point more than Westbrook.
Would you take, starting right now, who would you take, Lonzo Ball or Russell Westbrook?
Oh, Lonzo Ball in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think.
Really?
From this point on?
I think it depends.
From right now?
It depends what team
you need a piece. You're a team that is.
Oh, a championship contender.
Let's say a 500 team right now. You need somebody to make your team better. Who's going to make your team better, Lonzo Ball or Russell Westbrook?
All right, wait. Here's the thing. If you're saying, okay, you're the Timberwolves, you need a team to get you.
Or call it the Heat.
Okay.
A team that needs a point guard.
So you're the Heat. Okay?
If I'm the Heat, I would rather have Lonzo Ball right now than Russell Westbrook. I'm not going to lie to you.
I think it comes down to this. If you're a team that, this is my personal opinion, I don't think the Heat are a championship contender this year. And I think that if you're a contender wise, I don't want Westbrook touching that team. If you're hoping you're in the finals, don't give me Westbrook for free. I don't even want him. Just get him off the team. If it's a team that, like the Timberwolves, are a team that you just need to hit 50-50, you need a team to maybe bring you to the playoffs, carry you to the playoffs. Okay, Westbrook will do that. But in terms of like getting over the hump and kind of being the championship team or like the number 1 or 2 contender, don't give me Westbrook. I don't want him at all.
Personally, I feel that Lonzo Ball is grossly underrated.
And I think he would be a good
great defender, great passer, gets everyone involved.
And did you see the stat that Lonzo shot more threes and made more threes on a higher percentage? He's made 99 3-pointers this year. Trae Young's made 85.
Yeah. And Trae Young's another guy that's I don't know about hated, but disliked in this room.
The way he plays
basketball.
Steve Nash put it perfectly. It's not basketball.
If you're not familiar, he's kind of with the whole James Harden type of play, where he'd go up for a shot and then just jump into the defender, take the shot.
He dolphin tails backwards to draw a foul.
Right.
And it's blatant too. It's not like he hides it. It's something that it's known around the league. Like you said, Steve Nash called him out for it. But yeah. So let's move on here. All right. Mel Kiper came out with a list on ESPN for his top ranked quarterbacks coming out of college in NFL history. This is like in terms of evaluation, in terms of just taking them from college, and what do you rank them as a scout? So Kiper's list came out, and his top 5 was 1 John Elway, 2 Andrew Luck, 3 Peyton Manning, 4 Trevor Lawrence, 5 Jim Kelly, and then at 6 he had Andre Ware. We made our own lists, our own top 5s. So let's get into that. Do you want to take some?
All right. So my top 5 at number 1, I went with John Elway. I think that John Elway is clearly the number 1 prospect ever. You hear all the stories about how he could have been a Yankee. He was just a great prospect, a great talent coming out of college. At number 2, I went with Trevor Lawrence. To me, his resume is near spotless.
Yeah.
Perfect mechanics. He's a great leader, a great kid. So I had him at 2. At number 3, I went with Andrew Luck.
Okay.
Kind of coming out of Stanford, he was John Elway 2.0.
Yeah.
And number 4, I went with my guy, Peyton Manning. He never won a national championship, but you don't have to be a top 5 prospect coming out. But at number 5, might be a little surprising, but I actually went with Troy Aikman. I think he was a little slept on as a prospect, and Troy Aikman.
Yeah, no, and Aikman here is at number 9 on Kiper's list. In terms of mine, pretty similar. I went number 1, John Elway, just a physical specimen, and hard to not put him 1. 2, I went the same way. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's got probably the best resume coming in in the history of the
It's hard
game.
to dispute it.
Very hard to dispute it, and the nonsense about him maybe being second tier to Zach Wilson is just blasphemy.
Shout out Stephen A.
Shout out Stephen A. So 2, Trevor Lawrence. 3, I'm also going to go Andrew Luck. I think Andrew Luck he came out and he was one of those guys where he was just the clear number 1 guy. Like there was no questioning it. And obviously his career didn't really end the way that everyone
Not his fault.
anticipated. Not his fault. Of course, once he leaves, they get him an O-line. But yeah, his ending to his career was definitely something that nobody envisioned for a guy that was, like you said, 3 on this list, 2 on Mel Kiper's list. 3, I'm going to go Peyton Manning, like Mel Kiper put it. He was just dominant. Or actually 4 Peyton Manning. Just dominant coming out. Everyone kind of knew that he was just going to be a
little bit of a debate
little
between him and Leaf, but that just
it all worked out.
yeah, it all worked out.
It all worked out. And then 5, I'm gonna go Kiper too. Jim Kelly.
Good pick.
Not much to miss out there.
It's a good pick.
He was he's dominant and he's kind of one of those guys too that you could just tell right out of the way. Like this guy's a baller. And honestly, for the number 14th pick.
That's the best QB draft class of all time.
Yeah.
Elway, Kelly, Marino.
1983?
Yeah.
83.
So, I think we all had the same top 4, right? Because I was in agreement with that.
Okay.
Because I didn't see that list, where was Eli Manning on that list?
Let's see.
I almost put Eli at 5.
So, I have Eli at 5, solely for the fact that, and listen, I'm looking a little bit ahead to what he did, but he came in, made an impact, won 2 Super Bowls, and was the greatest. I mean, I think he's the greatest Giant of all time.
He's the second greatest Giant of all time.
Okay,
LT,
so
put some respect on the man.
Eli Manning was responsible for.
He might be the
Super
third.
Bowls.
He might be behind Strahan too.
I definitely would not put him behind Strahan.
If it wasn't,
I don't like Eli Manning either.
I don't know. If it's not for Michael Strahan in that defense, Eli doesn't have 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that if it's not for David Tyree or Mario Manningham, he doesn't have 2 Super Bowls
Tell me
either.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think you can't discredit what a guy like Eli Manning did for the Giants.
Absolutely.
And the fact that the Giants were putting all their eggs in the basket to trade for him because they knew what he was capable of doing. All Eli Manning ever did was go out and do it until the tail end of his career.
Eli Manning, coming out of college, also had many of the major passing records in college football.
Right.
Yeah. And something worth noting, as we were just looking through it, Josh Allen was actually 10th on this list, which I think is funny because
I feel like he was
a lot of people were
getting
slept
hated on.
Yes, I think he was hated on too.
Yeah.
And I was one of those guys that was a
Then
firm
again-
believer on him.
Then again, this is
having a good
purely
career.
Kuiper's list, and this is
Yes, this is
Kuiper's
Kuiper.
opinion.
Yeah, this is
He
Kuiper.
didn't take into account how other people felt
Yeah,
about him.
right.
This
exactly.
is purely his opinion.
Which I agree. I think in terms of my evaluation of Josh Allen coming in 2018, I thought he was going to be great. I saw a lot of Big Ben,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like athletic Big Ben.
Yeah,
Like that's pretty much all.
Big
you could
Ben
say.
that takes care of his body.
That takes care of his body, and he's one of those guys. You see the stories about him. Like he's one of those guys that's just a really good guy. And obviously Wyoming, it's a school that isn't talked about much
Yeah.
at all. And coming from there, it was surprising that he made a difference. But he had a cannon of an arm, and
a little bit erratic coming out of college.
yeah, definitely, and even for the first year. But obviously we saw this year what happens when Brian Dabble and the gang gets on him
And you get him a number one receiver, too.
get a number one receiver, and he's confident in the pocket, and I agree. And honestly, going off that, the Bills just recently dropped or released John Brown. So obviously you have Gabriel Davis also, who made a role for himself. But I think the Bills are a team here that it's kind of in a way the sophomore slump type of idea, but instead of a sophomore slump, since he had his best year this year, I think next year, very realistically, he could have a slump type of year. But
I don't see
think,
it happening.
Well, I don't think it will happen because I think they're going to go out and they're going to get him a weapon. I
Yeah.
think they should go and get him Hunter Henry, a big tight end that could ball. Because if you look at it, after a year like this, I don't think you get rid of John Brown and you just downgrade. Because they have upgraded film on you. Everyone's gonna see how you did this year, and they're gonna cut you down. It happens all the time. It happens with Mahomes. It happens with every quarterback. So I don't think you taking a weapon away does anything good for him. Plus, Brian Dabble is most likely gone after this next year.
Yeah.
So you can't lose a weapon, lose Dabble. That's no good for Allen. I think they got to get him a tight end or something.
And having that tight end combo, if you do get Hunter Henry, and Dawson Knox would be a great option.
Oh, yeah.
And the Bills, they've always made worth with who their tight end is.
Right.
So getting a guy like Henry and then having a 2, I think that's huge for the Bills. They could really make a run this year. And I think their defense kind of took a step back from what it was 2 years ago. If that defense comes up and makes a jump like it had 2 years ago, this offense stays hot. The Bills are a team that a lot of people could see going to the.
I could see them going to the Super Bowl.
I could definitely see them going to the Super Bowl.
Now, staying in this division, a little off topic. So I saw this right before I came over because I literally don't get any alerts about free agency stuff this year. Trent Brown of the Patriots.
Yeah, for a 5th rounder, I believe.
Yeah, for a 5th rounder. And he restructured his deal to be on a 1-year, $11 million contract. I think that's a huge move by the Patriots.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
Trent Brown is one of those guys where you see with Belichick all the time, there's a guy who's highly touted or even not even highly touted, and they go to a team and they don't really produce much. Belichick grabs him for the low, turns him into all-star. Happens all the time. Happened with Akeem Hicks to the Bears.
Well, now
or actually to the Saints at first, I believe.
He already turned Trent Brown into an all-star caliber player. He could do it again.
Yeah,
well,
that's
was it
yeah.
Bill Belichick or was it Tom Brady?
Or was it Dante Scarnecchia?
That
Because
too.
he's gone too. Scarnecchia was, if you don't know, probably the greatest offensive line coach of all time. He retired.
Yeah.
He was with the Patriots forever. Retired, came back, and once he came back, the Patriots started winning their 2nd string of Super Bowls. And then he recently retired. I think the past 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think Trent Brown is a very good pickup. That's something that I think lets them put Trent Brown probably left tackle. Or right, I don't know what's going on.
I think he's going to play right.
I don't know what's going on with Marcus Cannon. That's the issue because Cannon, he opted out this year, and if Cannon comes back, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, I'd rather because that's the thing. They're losing Joe Tooney, so
Yeah.
you could put Trent Brown at left tackle, keep Marcus Cannon at right tackle, and then bounce Isaiah Wynn into left guard, which I think Isaiah Wynn could play really good at left guard. He's a big body.
Yeah.
And obviously you keep the core of David Andrews, who's a beast, who's not appreciated nearly enough in this league, and right guard Shaq Mason, who's also the beast. So I think that's an O-line that's very underrated.
They also had one of the best O-line draft
Yeah,
picks
Michael
this year.
Onowu.
Yeah.
He played a lot of right tackle, I believe. They moved him to right tackle. So that's you know what? Maybe they keep him at right tackle and they get rid of Cannon.
Well,
I
it's
could see that. Cannon's up there in age.
with all this being said, it's Bill's time to prove that he can do it without Tom. He has all this cap space. He has all of his top defensive players coming back, opting back in, like Hightower and Chung. It's time for Bill to prove that he can do it without Brady.
Yeah, and you know what? It could even be something like this. I think Belichick is going to do a whole new approach. It's going to be a Patriot team that we've never seen before. And who's to say that they don't just keep Onowu and Cannon and win and like they did I think 3 years ago or maybe 4 years ago, one of the Super Bowl years, they have a rotating line at offensive line, and whenever guys get tired, rotate them in, and that kept the line fresh.
I'm pretty sure that's the year they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl.
I think so. I think it was. You keep the line fresh, and that helps the run game tremendously. Obviously, Sony Michel's still there.
Damian Harris.
A
guy to look out for this. I am a
lot.
big fan of Damian Harris. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Damian Harris. I want to see what Damian Harris can do on a team with a real quarterback.
Yeah,
to be quite frank.
To pair up with the pass game. Obviously, I was looking at the stats, and I'm pretty sure there were 3 games where Cam Newton threw under 100 yards.
Yeah.
And then Stidham might have had one game
you just can't
102.
win in the NFL anymore without a quarterback. The days of relying purely on a run game and defense, in my opinion, is over in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's over, but you still see it because when the Patriots beat the Cardinals, I think week 12. It was
it can win you a game here and there, but it will not win you a championship.
It definitely won't. Yeah, but that game is actually very interesting to look at. The Patriots won 20-17 on a Nick Folk field goal as time expired, but it was crazy because Newton had a 6.0 QBR. I was actually looking at this, and only 2 receivers on the Patriots had positive yards.
Yeah,
two receivers.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
The Patriots this year
just
might have been the worst passing attack I've ever seen in my life.
It was definitely and Demir Bird stepped up in a couple games. Obviously, Jacoby Myers. I think Jacoby Myers is very good. I liked him a lot.
I think they have a lot of improvement.
You gotta
to
get a wide receiver one
at the skill position.
Obviously, James White is just the GOAT. Love that guy. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for episode 6 of the Tipsy Tailgate. Thanks for tuning in. I believe 73% of viewers aren't subscribed. So make sure you're subscribed. We really appreciate it. Every subscriber means a lot to us. Comment. We'll always comment back. We really appreciate it. Like the video and check us out on Instagram and Twitter. But we'll see you next episode.